This is Bliss Oasis. Change your thinking, change your life.
He had told me, stay close to me. But somehow in all the chaos and madness, we parted ways.
Okay.
And yeah, I did eat a bit of teargas. And I think, but the interesting bit is he had already warned me the minute you see the red beret GSU, just get lost. Those ones don't like knowing whether you're a journalist or anything.
Yeah, so welcome again to Bliss Oasis Africa, where we bring you untold stories of everyday people, pictures, photographs. They give a representation of life, but who brings these photographs? And what is a photograph? What is a picture? Who is a photographer? We have somebody today as our guest to tell us a lot about that. And it's unique because my guest today is among the very few female photographers we have in Kenya. General photographers, I think there are very few. Okay, not so few, but there are fewer than the male photographers. I think photography has been for a long time dominated by the male species, but we have Elizabeth. Elizabeth will tell us about photography, particularly. She's been a photographer in the media, and looking at her, because we've seen her before elsewhere, how she fights or competes with huge people, huge photographer to get the best shot. Sometimes it's amazing because she is blessed with a small body. So without much ado, we invite Elizabeth Muthoni. Welcome to Bliss Oasis Africa. And who is Muthoni? Who is Elizabeth Muthoni?
Thank you very much for having me today. I'm Elizabeth Muthoni, and as you've kindly introduced me, I'm a photojournalist, not just a photographer, but a photojournalist. I started my photojournalism in People Daily. I was a news reporter. Then politics was very high in Kenya, because that's a time when we were having Moi as the president and he was almost leaving office, and the political world had not opened up so much. Therefore, you'd find that you find yourself taking photos of politicians, and the next day you're being sent to cover the main government, which was now KANU, and they were the ones in power. And you'd find a bit of, let's say, violence, or not so much of violence, but there'll be that tug of war between you and the police, and sometimes even the people who you're sent to cover. And that was my way of being welcomed into photojournalism in Kenya.
So during those days, I remember once in a while, there used to be a lot of tear gas. So did you eat some tear gas?
Tear gas, it never went without tear gas in a week, once or twice. There was a lot of demonstrations from the famous Karl Marx in Nairobi University. And we also had the demonstrations from the politicians. And we also had like the hawkers who were always running up and down and having fights within the city council askaris.
Okay. So we are going to go into all that details as we go on. But those who know you and those who are knowing about you today may want to know a bit about your background. Were you born in Nairobi, for example, or out of Nairobi? And how did it all begin?
Okay, I was not born in Nairobi. I had the, let's say, I have the privilege of being born in a quiet highland area that is in Nyeri, a family of 11. I'm the 11th born.
Wow.
Brought up, and I was happy to be brought up amongst the boys, because the boys were amongst the last, there were 7 boys. So I've grown up being more of a tomboy, fighting my way. And I've always felt that I felt more comfortable in male-dominated maybe jobs. So even if you look at me, my friends, majority of them are male.
Okay.
And I think that is through the upbringing. I went to a school called Nyeri Primary, which is now Moineri Complex. And then I joined high school, which was, I started with Chogoria Girls, but transferred later to St. George's Girls. As I said, I'm a lucky girl born as one of the last born. So my family thought it would have been better coming to a Nairobi school, and is even easier for them getting to know about my, academic and seeing me closer. And that is how I have brought up. I was introduced actually in the world of photography by my dad. He was an engineer, road construction engineer, one of the first road construction engineers. And he used to have the cameras, because they were the manual cameras with film, double lens. And he taught me how to compose pictures. And I loved being able to see pictures later, because then it told a story that it's within a blink of an eye, which is by the second, and it is gone.
Yes.
Words can be able to be told. I can tell a story, but the image is always lasting. And it always creates a sense of belonging, even when someone sees it 100 years to come. It is a lasting effect that lives with us. It's called the frozen memories.
Yes, and you rightly say a picture lasts long because a story can be retold. But whenever you retell a story, it keeps on changing because you are given your perspective. And again, we are also told that a picture tells
there's
a
distortion
thousand,
of words.
a thousand words or so much. And so, suppose your dad was not maybe into pictures. Suppose he did not introduce you to photography. You think you would have been under there in any way?
I don't think so. I might have ended up more maybe engineering or mechanism. I was always used by my brothers when they were doing the services when it came to the tractor. I have very tiny hands, so they would always tell me, come hold the piston or get in the engine and feel where the rings are, so that everything is, when the piston is being put on the shaft, everything comes in order and in alignment. So that is how I was able to also get into the mechanism. And and photography. Or maybe I might have ended up in the military, because, well, those are some of the other male-dominated careers. And I always loved it, because I had cousins who were in the military.
Okay, why military? Was there anybody else in the family in the military?
Yeah, my cousins.
Boys, I'm sure.
Yes.
And tell me, because you say that you would help your brothers in maybe repairing the tractor or whatever, so you have some knowledge of mechanics?
Yes.
Just from hand-on, or you went to college, or how did it happen?
No, just from hand-on. Hand-on
So
only. I never went to college.
repair a car. If somebody brings you a car, can you repair a car?
I don't think I can repair a car, but you would not cheat me, because then I know whenever you raise up, when you tell me that you need the pistons or the rings, I'm able to figure out where they go. So you're not going to cheat me that easily.
So you may not be the type of maybe a lady who would call their husbands or boyfriends when the car is stuck somewhere, they don't know what to do. You will know, even if...
No, I'll try and first figure it out.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Yes, and I actually would never call my boyfriend or husband. I would call more of the mechanic to come get it out.
Because again, maybe the boyfriend might not even know what the hell is going on.
That's the thing.
Sure. So after high school, what did you do?
Yes. High school, I went to St. George's, and
in Nairobi?
I did, in Nairobi. Yes. Yeah, so as you know, high school, when we're in high school, for us, we either did pure sciences or arts. So I'm more of an arts person.
Okay.
But I didn't do arts because I'm not good in drawing. I'm not very patient.
Yeah. Oh.
But I did more of the sciences and the history. So for me, that's how I did more of the basic arts.
So you said you're not patient. So why do you say that?
I'm not. Okay. It's not that I'm not patient in seeing the actual thing coming to life. So I'm very attentive to detail, but I'm not very patient in just actualizing it. And as you know, in drawing, you need to be patient, especially if you have to get to observe the subject and then start drawing. So I'm not the kind of person who I'm observant, but when it comes to drawing and I mess up, I'm not patient when I'm making mistakes. I like, yeah.
That's why I like snapping photographs, because they're instant. It's also art, but it's instant.
And yes, and when I do the mistake, I'm able to redo it within the second.
Yeah, and it still produces the details that are supposed to be seen.
And yeah, and in today's world, we have a 3D printing. So I still will be an artist by printing in 3D.
Okay. So after high school, were you, okay, in high school, were you still doing photography? Or did it?
No.
So at what point, like, did you discover your passion or you were into photography through your dad? Or you already had it? Okay. So it is after school.
I had it.
Yeah.
After school is when, you see, like for me, I'm the kind of person who loves, I love movies. I don't like music.
You love movies.
Kind of person who will tell
you love movies.
Yes, I love movies. Yes. Because I have more of a photographic mind, where if I see you, I'm not going to forget you, but I might forget your name. And even 20 years to come, I'll still remember your face. So I'm more of a movie person than a music person. And for me, I like, as I said, I'm not patient. So like, if it comes to watching series, it has to be a series that is very captivating. It's not a story which I'm able, it's not a story which I'll be able to say, oh yeah, then I'll be like, yeah, it always ends up this way. I like the kind of series which I will watch is like How to Get Away with Murder. Those are the kind of series which I will watch.
Okay.
And yeah, but I like, watching a movie because the minute I watch, I'm done with it. My kind of music is maybe classic music because it's quite soothing. That's my kind of music.
Upande Lingala?
Hapana. Kuna kelele mingi.
Okay, so I want to follow the growth of your interest in photography. You leave high school, you're not yet a photographer, your dad introduced you to photography. Did you go to a college or you just learned?
No, I did go to college. I went to School of Media Studies. And through School of Media Studies, I got the internship in People Daily. I continued with my internship in People Daily.
People Daily was around what time? I mean, which period?
It was in 2000, 2001.
Okay.
So, and then a School of Media Studies closed down. I didn't continue with the I didn't continue with the studies anymore, but they were kind enough. They gave us some certificates to show that we were actually, we did the photography, because we had only like 6 months to completion. Because at the time when we had gone for internship, so we're almost done.
Okay.
And then when I was still working at People Daily, I enrolled into Kenya Poly, where I did certificate in photography. And this was more manual photography. Digital, as much as digital was coming in, we still learned using the manual, because at the end of the day, if you don't understand the camera through the manual, you'll never understand how to be able to get the kind of picture you want on the digital camera. And then I also learned how to produce film in the darkroom. Quite interesting. And yeah, that is how my education and background came about in photography. But all this I did when I was still in school.
In school. And when you were at Poly, were you still taking pictures for the newspapers?
Yes. I was still in. I was still working in People Daily.
Okay. So, what was the most eventful period at People Daily when you are covering like this politics? You said you ate quite a bit of teargas. Can you maybe describe one of them, one of the occasions with your photographic memory?
Yes, teargas was at one particular time there was a riot in Nairobi campus. And of course, photojournalists, you'll be told, take your camera and go. So that day, I had the privilege to go out with Moshene. He's called John Moshene.
I remember Moshene.
And yes, and when we were still there, he had told me, stay close to me. But somehow in all the chaos and madness, we parted ways. Okay. And yeah, I did eat a bit of teargas. And I think... But the interesting bit is he had already warned me the minute you see the red beret GSU, just get lost. Those ones don't like knowing whether you're a journalist or anything.
Yeah, so Moshene, you said John Moshene?
Yes.
He told you, stay close to me.
Yes.
But when danger came, he forgot about you. Or you didn't know where he was.
Even, you know, like during the riots, as when you're busy focusing, what happens is you might see an image that he's also concentrating on another one.
Yes.
So in between, we got lost from, from where each one of us was standing.
Okay.
But at least he had already warned me and told me, if you see the red berets,
just
get off the street.
Get out of the place.
Yeah.
So you ran back to the office?
No. I ran into what is now Fairmont Hotel.
That is Norfolk.
Norfolk, yes.
Oh, okay. And they allowed you in because such time they would actually even maybe close the doors.
Well, the guard saw me and he thought, she's so tiny, she can't even get just coming. And that's how I used to get away with a lot of things. Everyone used to see me and
being tiny. And I described that way during the introduction. But tell us, are your brothers tiny or you follow the genes from somebody else? No. Are they big or they your? And how tall are you? First of all, how tall are you for our viewers to understand?
5'4".
5'4". That's not very short anyway. But you have a very petite body.
Then I had. These days are not so petite yet. These days are not so petite.
Maybe those days. So they saw this small, so the guards at Norfolk saw this small girl coming with cameras running and they could see smoke. They allowed you in.
Yes.
And how long were you in the hotel before you could go out?
Almost give it 45 minutes. Yeah.
How was the mood in the hotel with maybe tourists or guests? Or are they checking? Are they maybe peeping to see what was happening?
Yeah, most of the people were peeping from the dining. Norfolk has the dining area in the lobby, so most of them were peeping from there. But interestingly, is that the minute the red berets come in, they kind of clear the streets. So everyone takes off, and within 40, when it starts becoming calm, then you get out, but you don't get out immediately because what happens is then you get the other goons who are coming to steal. So you give it a bit of a break, and then now you go out.
So when you went out, did you go back to campus where the chaos was?
No,
or it had already gone.
No.
I mean,
that one was already gone.
So you went back to the office.
The first place is the studio. Leave your film, have it produced, and then now go to the office.
And you met John there.
Yeah, he was busy asking, have you seen Liz? And I'm like, yes, I'm right here. And he's like, okay, next time I'm putting a string around your bell. Welcome to the world.
All right. Yeah. So show us another, maybe explain to us another incident, maybe a political rally or whatever, or what?
Okay, the other one was more of the hawkers. You remember that time the city council askaris were very, very rough on hawkers.
Yes.
So you know where Union Towers is, there used to be a Nando's.
Yeah.
So what happened on this day, I was supposed to go and cover a function at Laiko where Sonkuli was then the internal minister for security.
Yeah.
As I'm down there, of course, you're busy looking, and here a picture comes. This lady had come from Nakumatt, and she had her Nakumatt, shopping with all the paper bags. Remember, Nakumatt used to have those huge
Yes.
paper bags.
Yes.
And of course, the city council askaris, they don't care. They just picked her up and they thought she was a hawker, pretending to have the shopping bags. And there I was clicking away. Little did I know there were others behind. So one came and just slapped me right across my face. Camera fell. Thankfully, the lens did not break. But I can say I was black and blue. I had never had a black eye, but that day my face was so black and so swollen. And then here I have to go and cover now Sonkuli's function, because then all the other photographers have left. Yes.
Did you?
Because I was that. When he saw my face, he was like, who has done this? And I was like, I was covering something happening with the city council askaris, and he was like, what? And he passed up the function and told, and actually then was it Murade? Murade, you remember that cop you used to be called Murade or something?
Are they at the city hall?
PPO.
Oh, the
PPO.
Yeah, I remember.
So he called him. He called him and he told him, can you find out who was on duty on this particular time and who are the ones who did this to her? And somehow they got their, their reprimanding and everything. And I think since then, I have never been touched by the city askaris.
Wow. Okay. They knew. I mean, they must have, whoever did it must have described the person who said,
Yeah.
But then it was very sad for that lady you were covering, because, she was just a customer. She wasn't a hawker. And then was she put in the vehicle? Was she clubbed or clubbed?
Yes, it was a truck. She was put into the truck, but well, I already lost, I couldn't follow up since I became part of the story.
All right. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Earlier on we were chatting and you told me about, you already said how you love movies.
Yes.
And right now you do videos? You do videos and still photography?
Yes. Sometimes I do videos, but I'm still the kind of person who just loves the photos. They still work for me.
Okay.
I still do the videos.
So do you think there will be a time, sometime in the future, when you might go into movies as recording a movie, doing a movie?
I don't think I'll do a movie. I would do more of a documentary, as a lot is actually being lost, and we are not doing it. We are not following it up. Like a lot of the African folk tales that were told.
Oh yes.
That generation is actually dying, and we still haven't done those. We haven't captured those folk tale stories. And some of us, I can tell you, I can't even tell one folk story from the beginning to the end, because I have forgotten some of the words.
Sure.
But now that generation which can tell those folk stories is either losing the memory or they're too weak, and those who are still who can manage to give that story, those are the people who need to start doing those kind of recordings with.
Okay.
In their vernacular languages.
Okay. So as a photographer, okay, we will come to that later about what you wish to do about documentary as far as documentary is concerned and so on, about the future. But currently, I mean, as a photographer, because even like now, many people have, or rather, the telephone, the phone, the cell phone.
Yeah.
They have, you know, cameras. People can take their own pictures. Like these days, you don't need to go to a photographer or studio to get your pictures. You can do it yourself.
Yes.
We have so many selfies, and some of the cameras are even quite automatic. But still, you see people taking bad. People still take bad pictures. So, what makes a good picture?
A good picture is all about the composition, and sometimes it's also first understanding and observing your subject. And without observation and understanding the subject, you still not get that picture. Like you have to look at someone, get to know when they smile, what kind of features do they have? Is that the picture you want? Even sometimes you might find that people who actually, when they are very angry, they're the prettiest of the people. You might find that when someone is in their argument stages, when they are very, they have those funny faces.
They are natural.
But it is about getting to know the kind of lighting you want to use, because lighting also elicits the mood.
Yes.
And then also the kind of the subject, what have you observed? Because as much as even you're taking pictures, without understanding the subject, you'll still get your bad picture. It might be a good picture, but it's not going to be a good picture.
Okay, now the other question is this: knowing a good picture and not a good picture. With this camera, with this with these phones, I mean, we technically all have cameras now with our phones.
Yes.
Is there a need for a photographer like you now? Do I need to call you when I need to be taking a picture?
Yes, they still need for that, as I've just told you. Sometimes it's also the control of light. If you look at the cameras that are on your phone right now, everything has already been set for you. So at the end of it all, I'm going to come with my camera and I'm going to be able to now set the kind of quality and lighting that I need to do to get that image.
Yes.
And like maybe the camera, I'll be able to go and edit once I take with the phone. But the kind of lighting that is there will still not give me the kind of quality that I want. I'm a victim to such, as I tell people, I usually buy my phones, not because of communication, but more because of the kind of camera. Like for me, I've bought my Sony fell into the ocean and I couldn't be able to salvage, the salty water. But the kind of camera that it had was something that I could be able to manipulate when it comes to that lighting. Right now I have a Huawei. Huawei's are one of the best. They have one of the best cameras, and I can say I still will not use my Huawei to give me a professional picture. At the end of it all, there are certain qualities that it doesn't have any.
Particularly when you are taking action pictures, for example.
Yes, it will give me in the kind of image that I want.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been quite interesting, and we'll hear more about photography and you, particularly when it comes to your hobbies. Earlier on, you told me you like driving fast, you like speed, but you'll tell us about that when we come back. We are now going for a short break. And when we come back, we will hear more about Elizabeth and her life in photography. So thank you very much. Welcome again to Bliss Oasis, where we are talking about photography with Elizabeth Muthoni, who has been a photographer in a male-dominated field. She and a few other lady photographers, she might tell us about them if she remembers them. And she has worked with People Daily and several other media, and she's going to tell us more about it. And she may look, I just commented on her looks before it came on again. She Earlier on, we talk about her size. Now we talk about her looks, and she doesn't mind. She looks like 16-year-old. She's not 16-year-old because you are a mother, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
You are a mother of how old? Yeah,
she's 17-year-old.
17-year-old. And anyway, viewers will have their own. But what has helped you in keeping such a youthful look?
I'd say maybe the family genes, and then also God, and also the job that I have. It you release stress on a daily basis. You can't hold it because everything that comes every day is a challenge. You don't have time to hold on to the post.
Yeah. And you also told that you like, in your free time, you like communing with nature, going to where, nature, seeing nature where things are quite peaceful.
That comes from maybe my upbringing, because I was brought up in a farm. The noise for me has never been anything that I like. So I like going into open, green, and quiet places. So that's just how I am.
And it's very interesting because you go to quiet places where it's serene and so on, but you are a fanatic of speed. You like speed. You like maybe. Yes. Don't tell us about that, because you said you like speed, driving very fast, where you are able to drive fast. Is there not contradiction? Because being where there is serenity and peace is quiet, but speed is something else. Or you enjoy the difference?
I think for me, speed and being in a serene place is maybe one and the same. It just depends, because for me, speed acts like a way where I'm able to just be lost in thoughts, because you have, first and foremost, you have to concentrate on the road. You have to be able to make the calculations within a splinter of seconds. But the speed has its adrenaline in you that just pumps your brain. So it helps you to block everything else out of in the world, and it's just you and the road and the car. So for me, that helps me in the tension, is in the stress, or even sometimes the anger.
We all get angry sometimes. But where do you do this speeding? On the highway or country roads, or where?
It depends. Sometimes when I'm going to work on the bypass, and then sometimes I'll just take off and maybe take a Mombasa road in the night. It all depends. Sometimes I may just think I need to go to Nyeri and see my mom. I'll drive out in the night, and she'll see me in the morning. I'll tell her good morning and goodbye. I'm back to work. And that's about it.
That's interesting. So, okay, fine. Let's go back to your photography. You worked as an intern on the People Daily?
Yes, I worked as an intern, and then I got employed at People Daily. And then joined Nation in 2007 or 8. When the Business Daily was coming on board.
Okay.
And we were actually the pioneer photographers for Business Daily, which was it was Joan Perwan, Freddie Mundi, and myself.
Yeah. Okay, that's nice. And there are some of the memorable photographs that you took. And you just talked about earlier on, you talked about the one at the riots, the riots and the police and the harassment by City Council askaris. But you've also taken a number of photographs of major accidents. Can you describe one of them? Road accidents.
I think the most gruesome one was the Mombasa road that happened. I think it was a Tofik bus. And it had been cut into two. And I remember then I was in People Daily, and I was asked to go and take pictures for that. And the only way the cops were being able to identify was from like one part of the bus was on the other side and the other one. So they were lifting up bodies and seeing on this seat, this was a man. How was he dressed? If the shirt was cut into two, then we'll be able to say, this piece kind of like resembles the other. And I always tell people, human blood has a way of smelling. It haunts you to the last of the days. Because till today, I tell people, I still can smell that blood. And then the other one you remember was the Nakumatt fire, the Nakumatt Downtown.
Yes.
I was able to cover that from when it began, because Nation is just next door.
Yes.
To the end of it, when they discovered the bodies of the lady and her baby and the baby girl.
Wow.
And the most painful part of it is that they died when they were hugging each other. And I remember the only way we were, when the forensic people were, going through the debris, and they were like, when they found, and we all have the zoom lenses, and you zoom into the image, and you're like, oh my God, she died hugging her child.
Wow.
And I remember the Nakumatt fire, we finished with the bodies were discovered, I think, on a Friday, and then Saturday, Sachangwan happened, and I ended up going to cover again Sachangwan. So I was in Molo the next day at night, when the bodies actually some of the bodies were still burning, and the cops were waiting for, for the fumes to die down, and also the trench of all the bodies that were on the trench, where when people were fighting for fuel and the blast happened, everyone was thrown on one trench, and even the people who were watching as the young guys were fighting for fuel, they also ended up being burnt.
Wow.
So I think for me, those were some of the most gruesome events I've covered. And yeah, it has hardened me, and I say that's a way of life.
Yes, and when you are when the accident happened, that was your first fatal accident.
Yeah, that was my first. Yes.
And when you are looking at behind that camera, when you are looking at when you are seeing what you are looking or what you are focusing on, how are you feeling, or why do you block them so that you are just focusing? There was no emotion. You are just doing your job. Was it affecting you immediately, or how are you?
When you get to the scene, it affects you. It actually does affect you, because, as I told you, the human blood has a way of smelling, and you can imagine this is not just one body. That was one of the worst accidents that had ever happened, and your insides get out, and the cops tell you, you know what, you have a job, we have a job, we have to do it. This is way of life. And I remember it took me almost half an hour to be able to even wake up and do what I was supposed to do. And the minute I was able to, I puked and everything was out, and all I could do was puke the air because of the smell. It got to a point where now I had to block everything and forget that these are humans and just take the pictures. And yeah, that's how you have to handle it. And the minute you cover one, then you're able to cover all the others.
So do you remember after the accident, how long was it to the Nakumatt fire?
Oh no, that one was many years later.
How many years later?
You can even give it almost 15 years later.
Oh, but the Sachangwan was next day after the Nakumatt.
Yeah, Nakumatt, the bodies were discovered on a Friday. Saturday, Sachangwan happened, and I was now at the scene that evening.
So how are you feeling on your way to Sachangwan? How are you feeling?
Sachangwan.
Yes.
If you're hearing it on radio and telephone conversations that are going on within the reporters, and plus what is being covered on radio by the people who are on site.
Yeah.
And I think I remember that day, all I said is that I need to sleep. I haven't slept for like 2 days, 3 days. And I said, you know what, I need to sleep. And when cars are being driven to where you're supposed to be, they go at all manner of speeds. And I actually just looked at the driver and I asked him, you okay? And he said, yes. And I said, I'm asleep. And I slept. He actually woke me up when we got to Sachangwan. That one I remember, because I needed the sleep. I hadn't slept.
Wow.
Yes.
And then you saw.
And then that was now another 2 days of no sleep.
Wow, quite an experience.
Yeah.
But as you say, it has hardened you, but you still have those memories. Were you haunted by nightmares?
I think they haunted me, but I think in the media world, you become hardened by what you do, that most of the times you either learn to block it or you get into alcohol.
Wow.
So for me, I learned how to block it. And then for me, I used to work a lot. So you'd find that I'm only able to sleep maybe for 4 hours. And I'm back again to work. So my body, by the time I'm getting to sleep, my body is so tired, and so the fatigue just doesn't even have room for anyone to, no ghost can haunt you in memory. So you just sleep. Yeah.
So you take your car and drive the hell out of the place. I mean,
no, actually, no. Then I never used to drive. I started driving, give it like, how many years ago? 8 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So after Nation, where do you go?
I joined KWS, where I do wildlife photography.
So what does, okay, you move from active, action-packed photography to wildlife.
Yes.
Action-packed photography is full of supposed to be sane people, human beings.
Yeah.
But you went to do photography. You went to do wildlife photography.
Yes.
What is the difference?
As much as there's a huge difference, because this is wildlife. Wildlife does not know you. And you need to get the pictures. But in the kind of organization that I work in, you'll find that you're also doing the human photography, because you have the communities who live with the wildlife. You have the employees who are working. You have we have the capture team, we have the vets, we have the research scientists. So you're always in the field with different people and different stories on a daily basis.
All right.
So you are taking pictures of events, you're also taking pictures of wildlife, and also of what you're doing, and also their communities. So it's a whole ball game of a different kind of action-packed pictures. Yeah.
So about wildlife photography, apart from, of course, the communities you take photos of, or those communities living in those areas.
Yeah.
Many of tourists, for example, understand our wildlife from postcards.
Yes.
Or magazines, where maybe the big five, maybe the hunting and so on. Is that the kind of thing you do, or is just beyond that? I mean, Kenyans, we've lived with these animals. We travel to Kisumu, tunaona hyenas kwa barabara, zebra is not a big deal, but somebody coming from out there is a big deal. And so you might be surprised to see somebody focusing his camera on a giraffe or an elephant, because for you, ni kitu ya kawaida. So tell us about taking pictures of giraffes and elephants and so on.
Well, for me, it's not just about the giraffes, but yes, I do take pictures of all the wildlife. And as I said, it has a story to be told. And also the subject is my wildlife. So for me, the subject is the wildlife. Therefore, what is common to all Kenyans is common to me, but is not common to everyone. Sometimes you might think you know an elephant, but you don't know an elephant until when you're able to take a picture and tell a story of an elephant. Or you might think that you know a zebra, but you don't know a zebra, because we have two different kinds of zebras. We have the common and we have the
I agree with you, because now unless you show me the photographs of one type of a zebra and the other, then I may tell the difference. But to many people, a zebra is a zebra.
Yeah, because we have the common and we have the grave zebra. So that's why I was saying that it's been for us as Kenyans, we take some of these things for granted,
Yes.
but they're not. These are things which we should also stop taking for granted, because sometimes you'll even find that I'm concentrating on a beetle. You know, the dung beetles as they're making the dung as they're rolling it.
Yes.
Most people also don't know that.
To play with them, or rather enjoy them when you are young, just by looking at them.
But interestingly is that every time when the beetle is rolling, there's another one which is just positioned on it. And that is the female, and the male is the one which does the rolling of the dung, because that is what they use as their home. So at the end of the day is that we take for granted because we were brought up with some of these things and that they're always there. But interestingly, some of these species are also becoming extinct because of some of the things that we are doing. And until when we take those pictures and we give the story, then does it become a reality to everyone within their homes, and even as they open even the papers or even when they open the magazines, then it becomes a reality that we are living with.
From the time you said you've been there for 8 years?
No, I have been in the organization for now, I think 12 or 13 years.
12, 13 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, has the interest among Kenyans to, visit the wildlife, game parks, is it increasing or is it static? Because there was this belief that when I have some days off from work or leave or Christmas time, I just run to Shago and come back. It's only the Zungus who would come from abroad and see our wildlife and go back. What is the situation at the moment? Are people getting more interested or just static?
People are more interested, especially this time COVID came about, and people realize that what nature does and how good it is to just be in the parks. And a lot of people have started now visiting the parks, and I can see Kenyans have now started owning their jewel.
And have your pictures helped, or your photography? Or photography in general by you people?
Yes, it has helped, because you end up having pictures being used in the newspapers, and you'll find that someone will come and ask, okay, so where was this taken? What is it about? And so the people are growing that interest, and even the photography and the videos also helping.
All right. So earlier on, you were talking about documentary. And I think you were talking about documenting our folklore, our folk stories, which are dying with the old folk, because somebody says that when an old man dies in the village, it's like a whole library has been burnt.
Yes.
So what kind of, or what role, or how are you planning maybe in future to document those stories? And is it an idea you have alone, or are you working with somebody else? Or is it just something that comes to your mind?
Well, it's something that captured my mind because, as I said, some of these old people are now at that age where they are living the world.
Yes.
I had the privilege of my mother giving me those folktale stories.
Yeah.
And today, as I said, I can't even give that kind of a story. And you'll find that every time when we go back home, my daughter will always go and tell her, Shosho, please, remember this story you told me. Can you retell it to me? And you find that all the kids are so engrossed into it. And that's something that is, dwindling within the community.
Yes.
And some of these folk stories had a lot of lessons as they were told. Yes. Especially when it comes to taking care of the environment, respect, and even taking care of the wildlife. All this was told within the stories, the folktale stories. So these are some of the things that we can actually start gathering again in our own dialect, in our own local dialect. Yes. And and having that library where we shall use it into telling the stories within our own history, and even maybe environmental, when environmental concerns rise, where we need people to start, becoming more appreciative and caring of the wildlife and the environment that we live in.
Yeah, it's true. And there's so much stories. There's so much story. And if one old man dies and a whole library is burned down, how many old men and women do we have from whom we can have so much stories? Sorry. And this is not just the folk tales. They can even tell about their own history, their own lives, how they grew up and where they were. Like, maybe it is for families, if they want to track down their lineage, they can actually use photography and video as the old men and women are talking about themselves and where they came from. It can be recorded. Otherwise, it's just something that burns down when they go away. So we've done like almost an hour of this, and it's quite enlightening from we know now who Elizabeth is, and I don't know whether you can mention some of the people. Of course, your dad introduced you to photography, but among the photographers, photojournalists, as you call them, who inspired you and whom you liked their work, and you always maybe tried to produce similar works in Kenya or anywhere.
Yes, actually the person who I liked their works more was Mohammed Amin. He's one of the great photographers. The next person was in Nat Geo. He's called Nicholas, because I used to like following the wildlife. And I can say that when I got into the photojournalism world and joined the media, I had the privilege of having Nur Hamisi, Maxwell Agwanda, and Rebecca Nduku. Especially Rebecca Nduku held my hand and told me, we are the only two and we are going to conquer this. Those are some of the people who I can always say thank you to. And even John Moshene, he was always there guiding me, protecting me. So some of those people, and can't even forget like someone like Jacob Otieno. I remember there are many times when I covered, some of these political rallies, and he'd always tell me, come below me, because Jacob Otieno is very tall, and I'm that kind of petite. So he'd fight and go all the way to the front, and he would stand with legs apart, and I would be underneath taking my photos as he's up there taking
towering above you.
So some of these people have done, they might look very little things that have been done, but some of those things, if they had not held my hand or even done some of those few little things, I would not be where I am today. I might have given up in photography a long time ago. So for me, those are the kind of people who built me. And of course, my family. There are many times we fought with my family because what is photography? And it got to a point where they understood me and they helped me along the way and have always appreciated what I have done. They're my number one cheerleaders at any one time.
That's nice. I'm glad you mentioned some of those people you mentioned, like Nur Hamis. In fact, I'll be hosting him very soon. And maybe others like Rebecca and the other lady for the Standard.
Tabitha Turi, and there was Jennifer Washie.
Yes.
So, and then Joanne joined.
And Joanne, also Joanne, who was the people also some time ago. I mean, I think you left the people together.
Joanne was in Nation Media.
Yes. So,
one.
Yes, now there are many young people, boys and girls who may want to venture into photojournalism.
Yeah.
And we know these days it's more electronic than print. I don't know what kind of advice would give them as they prepare themselves to go into the field.
What I can tell them is that everyone has their own uniqueness. Photography is so wide and vast. And sometimes we all, like the young want to be rich like yesterday. So they'll take the shortcuts of going into wedding photography. And these are, yes, you'll get the money, but what have you done with your talent? Because photography is a calling and it's a talent.
Yes.
And sometimes, as much as you want to make your money, look into that angle of what are you good at, and always appreciate that. If it wasn't for someone else trying to create a path for you, you'd not be where you are today, because photography has actually opened up a lot, and people have started appreciating photography in like a few years back. Before photography, you were seen with a camera, you are an enemy of the state and an enemy of every other person around.
Yes.
So had it not been for some of us standing and making that mark in photography world, photography would not be where it is today.
Okay.
And then the get rich mentality, just grow within yourself, learn and appreciate, even get to know the people who've been there before you and learn from them. There's a lot to be learned.
Yes.
I like Yusuf Washira. I remember I always used to go and ask him questions, although we never maybe went on assignments, but he was ready to guide me and help me. And then I'll also tell people is that it's not about the machine that you carry, because you find that most people think that having the latest of camera is what will give you that good image. It is not about the equipment. It is about the person behind the equipment. So just take time, learn photography. Just don't pick a camera and you think that you know it all, but get to learn. And even the experience is what has put some of us where we are today.
So thank you very much, Elizabeth. And I like that last comment, a quote. It's not the equipment. It is a person behind the equipment. And therefore, they should be patient and learn the trade and learn who they are, because it's all unique. All the talents are unique. And they can learn from the others, but retain their uniqueness.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, because even if people like Yusuf Wachira, Nur Hamis, and others are good photographers, you're also good, but you're good as Elizabeth.
Yes.
You can borrow the best from them, but improve on yourself. Yeah, so thank you very much for coming to Bliss Oasis. And we know,
thank you for having
me. And we now know that this lady, Elizabeth Muthoni, is not just a small, but there's a wealth of talent, there's a wealth of experience and words of wisdom that you can give to the young people who want to come to the industry, and also the future about the documenting our past. That's quite a good idea. And so I would like to thank you again for coming to Bliss Oasis and continue the group.
And I think before we finish the chat, I think there is one thing that I would actually ask the government to look into, is having photography, a still photography school where people can learn in diploma, from certificate, diploma to degree, because that is one angle that has never been looked into.
The still photography.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope the people concerned will get that message, but we'll try and keep on pushing and passing the message to people concerned. So thank you very much for coming to Bliss Oasis, and I wish you good time in your profession at the wildlife, and maybe one of these days you can invite Bliss Oasis to come to the wildlife and see how it happens over there, so that we can also know the difference between one zebra and another. And I think the giraffes also are in two or more, but si tukiona shingo ndefu tu tunajua ni giraffe.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, and we'll be meeting you soon here or elsewhere, and all the best.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and all the best.
Okay, asante sana. Kwaheri.